Hey, welcome to Mary's Recaps channel. Today, I will tell you about a heartbreaking and piercing 2008 historical drama film. Be careful, spoilers alert. 8-year-old Bruno lives in Germany in the 40s. The war was somewhere far on the front, but it did not touch the child's world. Bruno rushes through the streets with friends, plays, and does not pay any attention to the trucks, where the soldiers rudely herd some people. The thoughts of the boy and his older sister, 12-year-old Gretel, are far from Nazism, Jews, and the Reich. However, everything changes when Bruno's father, Ralf, suddenly returns home. He is a military man and has just received a new high rank and an assignment to Poland. Therefore, the children will have to leave their usual home and friends to go with their family to where the motherland needs. Elsa, Bruno's mother, is happy about her husband's promotion, and she arranges a big party and invites Ralph's parents. The grandmother is delighted to communicate with her grandchildren, but she looks at her son with disapproval and quite sharply makes fun of his love for military uniforms. It's easy to notice that the woman disapproves of what Ralf is doing. Ralph's parents are at the celebration hosted by Bruno's mother Elsa, in honor of her husband's promotion. From the conversation, it becomes clear that the mother disapproves of her son's activities. She compares his uniform with clown clothes and speaks drastically about what is happening. The next day, the family leaves. On the train, Bruno puts on striped pajamas while going to bed and listens to Gretel praying for the whole family on the top bunk.
Time has come for me to sleep. Lord, I thank thee for thy keep. Watch this night well over me, and teach me, Lord, to trust in thee.
Idyllic. However, the new house does not seem welcoming to children. This is a bulky structure with the Reich's eagles in the courtyard, barbed wire around the perimeter, and soldiers who now and then come to Ralph's office. And yet, Bruno, who considers himself an explorer, finds something curious. From his window, you can see a farm where strange people live, walking around in striped pajamas in the middle of the day. A little later, the boy finds one of the so-called farmers in the kitchen. An emaciated, staggering man named Pavel brings a crate of vegetables and stomps timidly at the door, afraid to do something wrong. At dinner, Bruno asks his father about the farm because there are children there, and you can definitely play with them. But both Ralf and Elsa are categorically against this, and the father adds that these people are different, not like them, and it is impossible to communicate with those kids. The days pass. Bruno is desperately bored in his room, where even the window is boarded up to prevent him from observing the life of the strange farm. The boy plays checkers with himself and tries to have fun running around the yard, but this does not help to cope with boredom. And for some reason, his mother forbids exploring the backyard, which is fenced off with a strong door. Gretel as well, she flirts with the young Lieutenant Kurt Kodler, imagining herself as an adult, and does not get bored at all, while Bruno has absolutely nothing to do. The boy sees Kurt washing the car and asks if he has an old tire to make a swing. Kurt orders Pavel, who is working in the yard, to take Bruno to the barn and find what he needs. The lieutenant's voice is full of malice, it almost breaks into a scream, but Bruno does not understand the reasons for Kurt's hatred of Pavel. But in the shed, he sees a window through which it is quite possible to get out of the yard to continue his research. The swing is ready. While playing, Bruno notices puffs of black smoke coming from the pipes of the farm and, staring, falls to the ground. The parents are not home, but Pavel brings the boy to the kitchen and bandages his knee. To the fearful questions of a minor patient, whether he will bleed, the man replies with a smile that everything will be fine because he used to be a doctor and knows how to treat such wounds perfectly. Bruno is surprised. Why should the doctor wear pajamas and do housework? Returning, Elsa finds out about what happened and thanks Pavel, but she does this only after long hesitation. It is clear that a simple "thank you" is somehow difficult for her. In addition, the mother tries not to look at the man and clearly feels uncomfortable around him.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, the tutor her list begins to visit the house. He teaches children modern history and introduces them to the ideas of Nazism. Bruno tries to read the book he received from the teacher, but it seems too boring. Stories about knights and pirates are much more enjoyable. And the boy is still attracted by the gate to the backyard and the window in the barn. Having seized the moment, Bruno climbs out through it and runs into the forest. A walk unexpectedly leads him to a farm fenced with barbed wire. Behind the fence, the little traveler sees the boy in the same striped pajamas with a number on his chest. Bruno is sure that the numbers are part of the game, tries to find out the rules from the interlocutor, and envies him the opportunity to play with other children while he is forced to wander alone, like a bear. He is even more surprised by the strange name of a new acquaintance, Shmuel. In response to Bruno's bewilderment, the boy says he is a Jew. Bruno is interested. The next day, he steals a chocolate bar to share with a new friend but waits for Shmuel at the wire fence in vain. He did not appear, and the delicacy had to be eaten by himself. And her list continues his lessons. More often than others, the theme of the Jews and the evil they personify is raised in the classroom. Gretel, infatuated with Lieutenant Kurt, strongly supports the policy of the Reich. She gets rid of her dolls so as not to waste time on games and plasters the room with Nazi posters. But Bruno doubts. The boy cannot believe that every single Jew can be bad because he knows Pavel and Shmuel, and they do not look like villains at all. The tutor unwittingly piques his curiosity by declaring that if Bruno finds a good Jew, he will be the best researcher in the world. The boy again finds a way to get to the camp, and this time he sees Shmuel in the same place. In a conversation with him, Bruno learns a lot of new things. It turns out that the wire with electricity connected to it is not needed for driving the animals away from the camp, and the soldiers force the locals to wear pajamas. In addition, Shmuel talks about his father, who worked as a watchmaker before the camp, and Bruno is naively surprised. How can adults not choose a profession for themselves? Why does the doctor clean the vegetables and the watchmaker nail the saws? Shmuel knows about the farm life much more than his peers, but it is clear that adults hide part of the truth from him. For example, the boy assumes that the smoke from the chimneys comes from burning old rags. Meanwhile, Bruno's mother begins to understand the scale of the atrocities in the camp, and after Kurt tells her about the origin of the smoke, Jews are burned in ovens, the woman makes a real scandal to her husband. She believed that Ralf was fighting the homeland's enemies, but what was happening here was not a war. She doesn't like what the tutor teaches the kids, she doesn't like Gretel's new attitude, and she doesn't like the need to live close to the camp. It seems that Elsa and Ralph's mother are on the same side, and she refuses to come to visit her son with her husband. An ugly scene takes place at a family dinner. Kurt thoughtlessly starts talking about his father, with whom he has not maintained a relationship for many years. Ralf, suspecting something was wrong, begins persistently asking the lieutenant about his parents and understands that Kurt's father left Germany because he disagreed with the ideas of the Reich. This is a severe circumstance that could cost Kurt his career. The lieutenant understands this and takes it out on Pavel, who accidentally spilled wine on the tablecloth. An enraged Kurt drags the man out the door and beats him up. Bruno looks at his father in horror, hoping that he will intervene, but Ralf calmly continues to eat. In the evening, the boy comes for consolation to Gretel. She, unlike him, does not see anything terrible in what happened. Embracing her crying brother, the girl tries to convince him that everything is right because the Jews are the death of Germany, and they must be stopped. However, Bruno's respect for his father was already shaken. He begins to wonder if Ralf is a good person. A new holiday is being planned. During the preparations, Bruno suddenly finds Shmuel in the kitchen, brought from the camp, since small fingers were needed to rub the glasses. The boy experiences dual feelings. On the one hand, he is glad, on the other hand, he remembers that it is impossible to be friends with a Jew. Seeing Shmuel's hungry look, Bruno offers him a cookie, but at that moment, Kurt enters the room. Shmuel tries to justify himself, explaining that he did not steal the treat. A friend simply treated him. This makes Kurt even more furious, and he lashes out at Bruno, asking how he dared to be friends with a Jew. The frightened boy denies everything and runs to his room. He is ashamed to tears, but nothing can be corrected. Shmuel disappears from the house, and the maid, Marta, cleans the glasses. In the evening, Bruno sees an excerpt from a propaganda film that tells how wonderful life is for the Jews in the camp. They honestly work for the good of the nation, go in for sports, go to cafes, and children frolic merrily in the streets. Bruno's faith in his father is restored. He sincerely hugs the man, glad that Ralf is doing such a proper job. Guilt continues to gnaw at the boy, especially since the little prisoner no longer comes to the fence. A few days later, Bruno finally sees him in the same place. Shmuel's eye has a bruise, he is depressed by what happened. Bruno says he is ashamed of his actions and asks if they can still be friends. Meanwhile, the situation in the house becomes darker. Pavel is no longer in the kitchen, Kurt is sent to the front as punishment for hiding information about his father, and Ralph's mother dies in a bombing in Berlin. Elsa cannot come to terms with her husband's position, and the spouses are increasingly moving away from each other. The boys are becoming close. They play checkers, and although Bruno has to move pieces for both opponents, they enjoy spending time together. Shmuel says that his grandparents died immediately after arriving at the camp. It seems strange to Bruno that both could get sick and die simultaneously, but these thoughts do not occupy the boys for long. They continue to play and laugh. Elsa's arguments finally convince Ralf. He agrees to send the family back to Germany, choosing a quieter place. Bruno is not happy about it because he will lose a new friend. He hurries to tell the news to Shmuel and finds out that he cannot find his father anywhere. He was recently taken to a new worksite with several other men and has not been seen since. Bruno really wants to atone for his old guilt toward his friend. He offers to make a dig and go to look for Shmuel's father together. You just need to get striped pajamas so as not to catch the eye of the soldiers, and hide your hair under a cap because all the prisoners are shaved bald. The next day, Bruno takes advantage of the turmoil before leaving and slips out into the woods. He changes into the robe brought by Shmuel, digs a hole under the wire, and goes with a friend to look for his father. Bruno suggests going to a cafe, but Shmuel does not understand what he means. Looking around, the boy sees the places where the filming took place, but now everything here does not look like in the movies. Bruno becomes uneasy. He wants to go home, but he can't leave his friend. In search of Shmuel's father, the boys enter the barracks. Suddenly, the soldiers begin to drive people out into the street, and the friends, picked up by the crowd, follow along with everyone, not understanding where they are being led. At this time, the parents are looking for Bruno. They see an open window and a sandwich the boy was carrying to a friend but dropped in the barn. Realizing that trouble could happen, Ralf sets the dog on the trail and runs after his son. Elsa and Gretel rush after him. Minutes count. Prisoners are herded into a windowless room and ordered to undress, announcing that a shower awaits them. Together, with all the boys go into a cramped room. Until now, Bruno had hoped they would have a regular bath, but now, standing with Shmuel and a crowd of frightened men, he begins to understand that something terrible is happening. Trying to cope with fear, friends hold hands tightly. The soldier activates the gas chamber at this time, and the light goes out. Ralf rushes around the camp. Elsa and Gretel find a hole with clothes left by Bruno. Clutching her son's things to her chest, Elsa desperately screams. She guesses that something irreparable has happened. Did you like it? Well, if you want to enjoy even more exciting stories, then be sure to watch all of them. It won't leave you indifferent. It was Mary with you. See you in the following videos. Bye bye.